What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another reaction video. We got the draft mistake that changed the NFL forever. Let's check this out.
So have you ever watched when it's your team's time to draft a player and immediately you know they drafted the wrong guy?
The New York Giants select Daniel Jones, quarterback.
That was the first mistake. The second mistake was giving that nigga 40 mil.
Well, in 1998, the Dallas Cowboys would be that team to do that very thing.
I tell you what, this would be one of the great stories of this draft.
When they picked up Randy Moss, right?
Ended up with the Dallas Cowboys. Just, oh man, there's a lot of storylines off of that one, aren't there?
With the 8th pick in the draft, the Dallas Cowboys select.
Guys, have you ever watched the of that? Now, feedback for sleep. Go check Made. All right, let's set the stage.
Lock in,
it's draft day. The team's on the clock. The pick comes in and your gut sinks. They chose the wrong guy. For some reason, the pick that everyone thought would go high just
my team has never had a problem with
sliding,
having bad drafts.
Here's the thing: this isn't exactly
can't
uncommon.
really relate to that.
We've seen it happen with players sliding down the draft board for all kinds of reasons. Maybe it's character concerns. Maybe it's just bad scouting. Aaron Rodgers, he was projected first overall in 2005.
A couple of weeks ago, Aaron, you were the clear-cut #1. What's changed over that time?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you.
He fell all the way to pick 24. Lamar Jackson, one of the most electric college quarterbacks we've ever seen.
Facts.
Yet he dropped to 32 in 2018.
Thank you for the other 31 teams that passed on.
That you could have gotten out of that room quicker and got drafted early.
What he's done for our franchise so far.
I'm happy to be a Raven. It don't even matter.
But Randy Moss in 1998, that was a different story. Randy Moss wasn't just another prospect. He was a generational talent. Besides Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf, he was the most talented non-quarterback in that year's draft. He had size, he had speed, and instincts that made scouts obsessed.
Marshall dominated the Mid-American Conference. Those 44 touchdowns really stick out. He was a man among boys.
That was 2 seasons, bro. Man, I thought this was 1 season for a second. I was about to say, hold up. But that is still crazy, though. God damn.
4 touchdowns really stick out.
In 2 seasons?
When you talk about how he dominated, Roy is a wide receiver.
The fact he had 44 tuds in 2 seasons is crazy.
But for Pro Bowl talent, he may be a man among boys, as you say.
He was built to dominate the NFL, but there was just one problem. Moss couldn't outrun his past. Let's rewind a bit. Moss's story starts off rocky, really rocky. Back in the day, racial tensions were extremely high, especially in West Virginia. And unfortunately, Randy fell victim to those numerous times.
Natives out there.
One incident on March 24th, 1995 became a turning point. One of Randy's friends had a confrontation with another student who had reportedly carved a racist threat into his desk. When confronted, they agreed to fight after school, and Randy, being 6'4" and 200 pounds, was asked to come along for support. During the fight, Randy admitted to kicking the guy in the neck twice.
Damn.
The aftermath was brutal.
Moss and another 17-year-old DuPont student were arrested just a short time ago. They're charged with malicious wounding.
That's why you don't be racist.
Picked up late this afternoon at his home in Rand, West Virginia.
Black parents are outraged with how the school's handling the situation. They say this is not an isolated.
You talk shit, you get hit, bitch. Real shit. Come on.
Incident.
That's the phrase, bro. You talk shit, you get hit.
As long as it's been in DuPont High School.
Come on.
Since Randy had just turned 18 while his friend was still 17, he took the full legit hit and ended up serving 30 days in jail.
Ernest Johnson wanted the All-American athlete to serve at least a month, and that's the sentence handed down. Randy Moss must serve 30 days at the South Central Regional Jail over the next 18 months.
Notre Dame, the team he committed to, rescinded his scholarship.
Not going to Notre Dame and playing where my dreams and goals was to be an athlete. I guess I just sit down with my mom and whoever else and just set my mind on another school for right now.
Then came Florida State, a second chance. Here's the thing. Since Randy had already signed his letter of intent for Notre Dame, the NCAA, they treated it as a transfer. So Randy was forced to redshirt his freshman year. However, he did practice with the team. And this is where the famous stories of him smoking each and every single defensive back on FSU came about. After his redshirt freshman season, Randy wanted to get out of the spotlight. So he took a trip back home to West Virginia. During that time, he decided to kick back and smoke. There was just one problem. Randy was still on probation. So when a routine drug test came around, Randy tested positive for marijuana.
Damn.
me for hearing I'm guilty of smoking marijuana. And the lockdown was really just somewhere that I could get away and just think about what I've done and just to see about, you know, what do I really want to do with my life? Do I want to be a thug and stay in the jail? Or do I want to be become a real gentleman and live my life the real way?
And without hesitation, FSU figured this isn't someone they wanted representing their program, and he would be dismissed again. It was a hard lesson about being under the microscope at big-name schools.
It's crazy how your past like that can like haunt you for like the next 5 to 6 years, gang. Like, that is insane. Like, cause that nigga should have never dropped in the draft at all.
Place where he could escape the spotlight and just play ball. Back in his home state at West Virginia at Marshall University.
There's a look at Randy Moss, 6'5", 210-pound sophomore from Rand, West Virginia. Single setback is Chapman. Pennington back to pass, looking for Moss downfield.
Bombs away.
35, 30, 20, and Randy Moss will score.
There, he thrived on the field, leading the nation with 1,709 receiving yards and 28 touchdowns his first season, and adding 1,820 yards and 26 touchdowns the next one.
Pennington looking long. He's got a man wide open. Touchdown. It's Moss. And Marshall has the lead. Unbelievable.
In 1997, he was a Heisman Trophy finalist, finishing fourth behind Charles Woodson, Peyton Manning, and Ryan Leaf. Without question, Moss was the best receiver in the draft. But he wasn't just competing against defenders. He was fighting his own reputation.
To boil it down, high school days at West Virginia, 2 counts of misdemeanor battery. That pretty much nixed him. He was on his way to Notre Dame. Then Bobby Bowden
crazy how niggas who actually, you know, murdered people in GTA have gone higher in the draft than a nigga who had 2 misdemeanors. Like, bro,
charges that were later dropped, but
that is
continue to
insane.
have some trouble. Do you take a risk and just go with him because he's a great football player, or is there a red flag?
In the days leading up to the draft, there was every indication that Moss could end up in Dallas. Boy stars and made it clear he wanted to play for America's team. But when it was time for Dallas to pick their guy, the Cowboys, well, they had a change of heart.
Dallas Cowboys select defensive end from North Carolina, Greg Ellis.
Instead of taking Moss, they picked defensive end Greg Ellis. Why? The reasoning wasn't just about talent. The Cowboys' staff, led by head coach Chan Gailey and receiver coach Dwayne Painter, were hesitant because of Moss's troubled past.
One concern the Cowboys
you had a receiver literally, damn near your whole team did cocaine. And you worry about 2 misdemeanor charges? Get the fuck out of my face with that bullshit. I'm not trying to hear none of that. Michael Irvin, shit. Who else? I think Emmitt Smith and some more people on that team were all having cocaine parties and shit. So I'm not trying to hear none of that, game.
Any player
Jerry Jones probably part of that too. You know, he liked to measure dicks in the locker room.
That's an issue that the Cowboys have had to deal with.
The Cowboys had just dealt with off-field issues from stars like Michael Irvin and Eric Williams. A year earlier, owner Jerry Jones hired Calvin Hill to run a player development program designed to help troubled players. Jones, he was sensitive to the issues his team was having, so I'm pretty sure that added weight to Moss's problems. Realistically, Jerry Jones might not have felt the pressure in previous or subsequent years, but aware of the team's image problems, he was swayed by the cautious voices in the room. But see, not everyone agreed. Legendary scout Jim Garrett, the father of future Cowboys' head coach Jason Garrett, famously stood up and said, "Men, this is not the Boy Scouts we're dealing with. This is pro football. Draft them." Can you imagine though, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, and Randy freaking Moss?
Crazy,
bruh. However, Garrett's
that would have been cheating. Like, real shit, that would have been cheating, bro.
When the St. Louis Rams took a defensive player with their 6th pick, the Cowboys, they locked in on Ellis. Randy, he took that personally. No, the Cowboys weren't the only team to pass on Moss. 19 other teams passed on him too. The Cincinnati Bengals, they passed on him twice to take linebacker Spikes at 13 and Brian Simmons at 17. But nobody remembers that, especially Randy.
Let's look at his draft class.
They passed on him twice.
Okay, so Peyton Manning, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Ryan Leaf, draft bust. Charles Woodson, one of the greatest of all time. I don't know who that is. Don't know who that is.
Other teams passed on him too.
Let's see who else. Fred Taylor. Heard of him. Don't really know that many niggas in this draft class. I'm gonna keep it up.
The Cincinnati Bengals, they passed on him twice to take linebacker Spikes at 13 and Brian Simmons at 17. But nobody remembers that, especially Randy. He just remembers the Cowboys. But why? Well, during his pre-draft visit, players and even Jerry Jones himself gave off the vibe that if Moss was there at 8, he'd be a Cowboy.
Also, of the trips Randy made, the Cowboys, he was most impressed by that. He enjoyed meeting Deion Sanders, spending a lot of time with him, of course, and also he enjoyed his chat with Jerry Jones. He spent about an hour with Jerry, and Randy were getting along, and Randy was saying it compared it to a couple of friends just catching up on old times.
He spent time at Deion Sanders' house, soaking up the vibe, and felt convinced he'd be donning the star on his helmet. The love and excitement in those 48 hours made him believe he was destined to be a Cowboy. However, fortunately for Randy Moss, he didn't have to wait much longer.
The Minnesota Vikings have selected wide receiver from Marshall
Randy
University, Randy Moss.
You know, when I go back to this, it's plain and simple. This is a young man who's a great player who made some mistakes in his past. He was 18 and 19 years old. He's still only a 21-year-old young man. And we think that his life is ahead of him. We're taking the high road. We're saying we got a full glass of water
Dennis
here.
Green in the Hall
we got
of
a
Fame right
football
now.
player who's going to mean a lot to our football team to help us win a championship.
The Minnesota Vikings selected him 21st overall. He played with a chip on his shoulder, especially when it came to the Cowboys.
Y'all gonna put that in y'all's book. I told you and I told you. Touchdown.
His rookie season was nothing short of legendary. And on Thanksgiving,
didn't he have
I
was about to say, didn't he have a legendary Thanksgiving game?
He gave the Cowboys a glimpse of what they missed out on.
And he is
dumbass.
throwing it back to Cunningham, the old flea picker. And
my God.
Is Randy Moss, and in the end zone is a Minnesota touchdown.
3 catches, 3 touchdowns, 163 yards.
Dang.
Total humiliation.
We playing today. You ain't got to worry about us.
By the end of his career, Moss had racked up 35 catches, 662 yards, and 10 touchdowns in 7 games against the Cowboys. Wow. Meanwhile, Greg Ellis had a solid career, 84 sacks over 11 seasons, even making the Pro Bowl in 2007. But no matter how good Ellis was, he never reached the level of greatness that Moss did. And for the Cowboys fans, every game against Moss was a painful reminder of what could have been. Stephen Jones once said he didn't know that they were the only ones that passed on Moss. But according to Randy, they were. The truth is, even though 19 other teams passed on Moss too,
it's not even about that. It's about like, bro, they had all these good interviews, good talks with Jerry Jones, Deion, and all of them, and they still passed up on him. Like, bro, I would be mad too, gang.
The story isn't just about one draft pick. It's about how the fear of risk can sometimes cost you greatness. The Cowboys learned that lesson the hard way, and it's a mistake they'll never forget.
How do you pay, man? If you don't write checks, how do you pay these guys?
Straight cash, homie.
Straight cash, homie. Hey, man, this is a WVid. Shit, I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Y'all let me know what other NFL videos I'm going to react to. Without further ado, I'm out.
I'ma make them feel me, make them people when they chow me. And if you don't know me, I'ma make sure that you know me. I hate to say it, but I really think I'm broke. But I know I'm chosen, I really know I'm chosen. I know I'm chosen. I was just lost a year ago, but now I'm focused. When good at sports, this microphone can be my trophy. Not taking drugs, I found a better way of coping.